Can Gohan solo Pokémon Fire Red? Let's find out by playing the Pokémon ROM hack Dragon Ball Z Team Training, a mod that basically replaces Rattatas with Beerus's and whatnot. And here are the rules. Only Gohan can be used in battle, no healing items mid-battle, and fighters for HM and TMs are perfectly fine. So let's get started. I start my journey by trying to touch some grass, but then the professor just comes out of nowhere, kidnaps me, and puts me in his lab, in which I'm forced to choose Gohan for this challenge. And not gonna lie to you, me and my rival just had to fight for some odd reason, and you know, I just beat him first try, no difficulties, and yeah, no reason to be mad yet. After delivering the professor's package, I was able to get capsules which are basically useless for the entire run. And yeah, I don't even know why I even did this, but hey, apparently this older guy can't just walk 10 meters up and you know, a few patches of grass, but hey, whatever, I relate sometimes. Then I had to beat the random Krillins and Yamchas in this wild grass, just so I can level up a little bit, because honestly, I don't trust Gohan at all. I legit just did not believe in him so far, because seeing him almost die to Cybermen like 3 times is really depressing, honestly, but hey, you know, maybe he's just gonna lock in later on. Then I found my rival next to the patches of grass I was beating Yamcha at, and yeah, it was relatively really easy until I beat his Bear Teeth, in which he brings out a level 9 Kaioken Goku, and just somehow, Goku has the bright idea to take himself out to beat my Gohan. Truly an amazing experience. The world champion of the martial arts tournament decides to take himself out along with his son. Truly an experiencing worth not experiencing. 10 out of 10, don't recommend. Then I rematched my rival one more time, and this time I made sure Gohan killed a few more bears, Cybermen, Yamchas, and Krillins just to get one more measly level, just so he could beat them in a few hits. In which, for some reason, Goku didn't want to try this hard, and then he just powered up and instantly died. Really nice. I then went to North Force and I beat basically every trainer here just so I can get a bit more XP, and thanks to their lovely sacrifices, Gohan was able to change his hair blonde and become the deviant he always was. And I bet Chi-Chi's really mad about this, not gonna lie to you. After Gohan changed his hair to blonde, he then challenges Yajirobe to a gym battle, in which this is the first and probably only time I will ever see this ability come into use, which is Clear Body, which if you don't know, prevents flinching. And honestly, this is the only time I've ever done any form of Pokemon where that ability has actually come into play. But hey, Yajirobe should have just outplayed it and just played better. I guess he just wasn't a real gym leader. After beating every trainer on my way to Mount Moon, I had to fight this random trader who was just camping the entrance for who knows how long. He's just here chilling, which is a full Team Bardock team who was just ready to fight me. And unfortunately, this is where Gohan just can't just win. His stats just aren't there yet, so unfortunately we actually did lose here. But thanks to the power of grinding, we'll see what happens. I then went to fight this random kid who's just next to the North Forest exit, and honestly he has a full team, but it really doesn't mean anything when you're double the level and you've already gone Super Saiyan. And the only reason I'm actually here is simply put, there is a very good item called Leftovers, which is allowed for this challenge. After getting a random Leftovers item, you can now re-challenge this random dude, and thanks to that, we are pretty easily able to beat this dude relatively with no difficulty, but it is a full team, and you know, this is where Gohan doesn't really show a struggle, since he doesn't have any build-up moves like Kaioken or Power Up. He just has this measly weak-ass move called Guard, which is basically useless in this game since breathing defense isn't as good as I think. After beating the only hard trainer outside, I went inside to the bottom and I fought these random peel-off grunts who are basically just Team Rocket in this, which is pretty cool that they actually took the time and effort to make, you know, cool little sprites for them. But it really doesn't matter since they're pretty much just very weak people who have very weak fighters, unlike my Gohan who is just him and he could solo everybody. And after this, I fight this random nerd who thinks he could win, but he forgets that Gohan's him. And thankfully, to me beating him for no apparent reason, Gohan just evolves again, and he's just about as good as I think he is. Then I fought this random dude who looks like Red, but clearly not, since he's running a full team from the Tree of Might movie, which is still a good movie, and thank you Legends for including a new Ultra that just comes back to life and makes me suffer. Then in Nugget Bridge, I had to fight my rival, and sadly he really did just lock in. since Gohan really couldn't do much against his giant monkey. But hey, he did his best, and honestly he tried. But trying isn't good enough for this challenge, and he's just lost easily. I then went to the grass to fight the locals, and thankfully he was able to level up just a little bit since he's got just barely enough XP to matter. After beating up the locals for feels like 20 minutes, I was able to re-challenge my rival, and unfortunately, even with Gohan trying his hardest, he still isn't good enough against his uncle and his two real dads, so I had to go back to fighting random. After gaining one level, I thought that was enough to beat his team, but unfortunately, Gohan isn't the main character, and Goku's just gonna beat him again, so I had to do something else in the meantime, since I was getting annoyed. Then I challenged Guru to a training battle in the gym since I really thought I was going to win, but clearly Gohan isn't him. In which I am forced to realize that Gohan has to probably evolve during this, but hey, whatever. Because he has the entire team again, by the way, in which at a higher level, and for some reason he has a level 35 fighter in the second gym, which is clearly unfair, but hey, whatever. I then went back to fight the locals for the 19th time for this challenge, and hey, they enjoy it. After beating the Floridians for about 5 minutes, I was able to level up to 35, and I taught Gohan the energy punch TM that you get from the Yajirobe after you beat him. And thankfully, I was able to get somewhat lucky in this challenge, and he got the proc. One really interesting ability about the energy punch is it gives you one stat increase in your attack stat, which actually somewhat helped me beat this gym pretty easy, just 5 seconds faster, but hey, it was enough to win the gym. And thankfully, Gohan didn't need to go back to fighting the locals for like the 20th time. I then made Gohan fight the locals for what feels like the 20th time, and thankfully, after beating up the locals for the 20th time, he was able to level up one time, and thankfully he was able to transform into Ultimate Gohan, in which this is basically the best one I get for a while. Thankfully, Gohan gets the new ability Clear Body, which is somewhat useful in this challenge since he can no longer get his stats lowered, like this certain monkey that makes you lose one whole stage in attack, which makes me 100 times weaker than him, and which we'll find out what happens. Thankfully, to our trainings and beating up the locals, Gohan is just a few measly levels above the entire team, in which we finally are able to see Gohan cook a team for one. And thankfully, his Clear Body ability or whatever makes it so he can't get his attack stat lowered, which means the monkey's basically useless, but he's still basically as strong as a legendary, unfortunately. I then went to fight my rival in the SSM, and fortunately for me, I was able to win relatively easily with no difficulty. And you may see a little Easter egg here, since you're going to see a certain bear come into play, since somehow in this entire challenge, no one can lend his HM for cut, in which he's literally one of the only few fighters in the entire world who knows how to use HM for cut, which is kind of weird since Gohan could probably destroy a planet, maybe in the universe if he wants to, but he can't cut a tree. But hey, I'm not a game developer, I don't know how strong Gohan is, and clearly he's not tree level. Here's a prime example why you don't want to have just energy moves in your team, since you can fight this one random fighter here that is able to just, absorb each and every one of your blast attacks. And unfortunately, Gohan loses probably the worst power diff in the entire franchise to Android 20. It was just Relo. And honestly, I might have made a mistake, and I might have brought Tracksuit Gohan to this fight, because clearly he was not cooking like he should. I then challenged the third gym, in which Gohan just straight up easily soloed, and nothing really to note, but I did at one point get a little worried since I thought we could have died, but hey, Gohan's him. I then found this very interesting bug, or maybe just mechanic in this game, but in the end of Rock Tunnel in this, you fight a trainer with a double team, and I don't know if this is intended or not, but I didn't have two fighters in this situation, and I just think it broke the game, kind of, because it made a new Gohan, and if I ever went into the Pokemon thing, the fighters section, it just broke. Like, I don't even know what happened, and then I kind of crashed my game, so I had to reset it, and I did it again like an idiot, but, yeah. Instead of me trying to beat this normally, me and Gohan Black were to jump this random dude's team, and it was very, weird seeing another Gohan, but hey, we jumped him, and thanks to their combined might, we were able to beat him and take all of his money, and we left the cave peacefully. After learning how weird double barriers are, I then went to fight this random dude outside of Rock Tunnel, because I don't know why, but these guys are just weirdly camping every tunnel imaginable. And this time it was like the first time I went to Mount Moon. He had a full team of Team Bardock members, including his wife, just like the guy from Mount Moon. And just like that guy, he lost just as fast and just as painful, because I don't know why, but they decided to stay here all day for who knows how long just to fight me and my random Gohan in a challenge that no one asked for. Instead of fighting my rival in the God Tower, I just went outside right to the left of the entire town just to fight these random junkies and beat them pretty easily before I fight my rival in the God Tower. And unfortunately for me, he decides to do an impossible odds, in which he uses his Raditz to luckily get a crit, and simply put, he one-shot my Gohan, so it's just a skill issue, and next time I'll just, simply play around the crit. After farming the locals for what feels like a 20-second time, Gohan is now level 50 and he goes to challenge his rival one more time just to assert his dominance. Unfortunately for me, and I don't in my recording session, I don't need to go back and farm another 20 trainers who didn't ask to be attacked and challenged for no apparent reason. And thankfully Gohan was he won. I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but hey, he won. No more farming for this session. I then went to challenge Bulma for the 4th gym badge, and oh look at this, it's a double battle. And I think we all know what's going to happen since it's a double battle, since I now have 2 Gohans who are going to, have a lot of fun, and I guess take damage. Yeah, it was just me pressing the same button over and over since it really didn't matter. I just beat them relatively easily. I kind of just went on my phone and watched TikTok because I didn't really care at this point. I needed that. You needed that stimulation, that brain rot. And that could be useful in the God's Tower, which is the only reason I actually need to beat him. Because let's be honest here, why is a 10-year-old kid stopping an entire organization by themselves? But let's be honest here, Gohan didn't have a challenge or anything. He just beat them relatively easily. And yeah, that's really it for this part. I then gave Gohan the 2 rare candies I had in my bag, and thankfully he was able to evolve the Beast Gohan. And for some reason they decided to give this really OP transformation, Huge Power, which basically doubles his attack stat to 314, which basically means he's the strongest in this entire game, and makes the game really easy. With Gohan's newfound power, I was able to challenge the rest of the Pilaf grunts in here, and beat them relatively easily with almost no difficulty, and I basically stopped trying. And thanks to that, they were able to give me a random flute in which I was able to use to wake up this random bug, and thankfully Gohan killed him without any remorse, and he really probably enjoyed it at this point. I then went to fight the Bobbity for my 5th gym badge, and somehow this entire puzzle took me 3 minutes as a grown adult who was in college, yet I am still struggling with a kid's game. Thankfully, with Gohan's newfound power, and him still being basically as strong as 3 legendaries combined, he was able to single-handedly beat the entire gym with basically no difficulties, and I just spammed the same moves over and over just like everybody else should in the game. After beating him, I went to go fight Roshi in his own little thing, and it was probably the easiest since I didn't need to try, and Gohan just outright beat his entire team without trying, beating his uncle, his friends, and his own dad just to prove a point that he is superior. After that, I had to go challenge Hercule for his next gym badge, and fortunately for me, I had such a fun time going around his invisible maze that I just kept going around for it feels like 10 minutes, even though it probably was like 5, but hey, I'm being over dramatic because I really do hate these things. Since I'm literally blind and I have no idea how people did this back in the day, but hey, whatever helps, it helps. After that happened, I had to fight Hercule, and oh look, see what I see? A double battle. And thanks to the 2 Gohans that I didn't really deserve, they proceeded to jump his entire team, and thankfully, I bet he enjoyed it since it was very enjoyable for me. I got to watch 2 Beast Gohans single-handedly attack this poor man's entire fighters team, and thankfully I won. And for some reason he said I cheated, but hey, the game gave me these fighters. So clearly it's the game's fault, not mine, so it's his fault. Thanks to the power of friendship, we were able to beat Hercule, and then we fought Pilaf, who, again, Gohan just were able to beat relatively easily since for some reason they decided to give him huge power, and yeah. After beating him, I had to fight my rival for what feels like the 7th time, but hey, Gohan was able to pretty easily win the fight, but now we're getting to the point where it's getting a little tough, but he's Gohan. Before I challenged the Elite Four, I made to fight these random trainers just so I can get a little XP for my Gohan, because clearly he needs a little bit more before I start challenging the hardest part of the entire run, which is the Elite Four and the Champion. Which, I'll be honest, I kinda enjoyed killing these guys over and over. I mean, I think Beast did, so hey. After farming those guys, I fought the first Elite Four member, in which Gohan was pretty easily able to beat. Not much difficulty, mostly because of the fact he kinda just one-shot or even two-shot most of them, so that was kinda fun. After beating the first Elite Four member, I turned to the second one, and Gohan practically beat it without getting hit. He took like maybe 1 or 2 hits, but Gohan healed what's leftovers over time, and proceeded to one-shot or two-shot, and sometimes even three-shot his entire team. And the only annoying part about this was the fact he kept healing his dead fighters. Then the third Elite Four member was actually able to beat me, since I actually completely forgot about Huriban's ghost typing, which is probably the rarest thing in this entire game, since at the end of the fight I used a normal move, thinking I can hit him, but he just proceeded to bob and weave, and thanks to that he was able to win, but don't worry, I'll be back for my get back. After that, I had to fight the 2 Elite Four members and challenge the third guy again, but this time I was able to win, since I guess Gohan just really wanted to win more than usual, and he just won, but this time around Gohan almost died, but hey, we'll be fine. After that, I had to fight the 4th Elite Four member, who is King Kai, in which Gohan is actually struggling for once, since he has basically an entire team that's actually better than the other two, but this time he chooses to have 2 fusions out of Super Saiyan 3, and I guess Gohan just didn't really want to crit or get any stat boost, since we lost to a Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, and hey, maybe he's stronger than Beast Gohan, I'm a power scaler. After beating the 3 Elite Four members again, I was able to come back to King Kai with a bit more level, since after beating them they give you a good amount of XP, and thanks to that I was able to beat him on my second try, in which Gohan really wanted to win, and he just pretty much easily beat him. Thankfully, we have only one more guy left, and I think we all know who it is. After that, I had to fight my rival, and during this he had an entire full team that's probably as strong as mine, but thankfully Gohan is really strong, but unfortunately we do lose this battle. But the only good thing about this is the fact that we actually learn a new move, God Kamehameha, which is a really good move that has like around 150 base power, and I can use it 5 times, which I then keep for the entire run, because Gohan doesn't learn anything else after this level, but hey. I had to win to do this again. I had to beat the Elite Four members the second time around to get to this guy, but this time I guess Gohan just wasn't feeling as strong as he was earlier in this run, since for some odd reason Piccolo and Cell, which Cell makes sense, no Death Ball or whatever you call it, Death Beam, which is the only good Dark type move in the entire game that actually does damage to Beast Gohan, and for some odd reason that surprised me, since I legitimately forgot Dark type moves existed in this game, since everybody's just a fighter. And I'm surprised they even died to this, and Beast Gohan is basically 2 legendaries in 1, but hey, it's a skill issue. I then did the coward's way out and taught Gohan After Image, which is basically double team. And thanks to me using double team 6 times, he was able to beat my rival in a very sad way, since he really thought he could win. But with the power of 6 double teams and Gohan just being basically 2 legendaries, and yeah, he was able to win. Thankfully, this challenge is finally over, and Gohan was able to solo the entire Pokémon Red. Thanks for watching, and to answer the question from earlier, you can in fact beat Pokémon Fire Red just using Gohan, and I did it in about, give or take, 17 hours, not including resets and whatnot. And I hope you can subscribe, and thanks for watching.